about listening, and it's about discussing how when you think about a world-class city, you will think about the city of Phoenix. So the things we'll be discussing tonight and the things we'll be hearing from these leaders in our community, as well as you all in the audience who are leaders in our community, are what are the things that we need to be doing together, collectively, to make the city of Phoenix, make the city of Phoenix a world-class city. There's a lot of passion in this room. There's a lot of passion from our speakers and our storytellers, and we're excited about the opportunity to hear from our council candidates on their perspective tonight. It is my privilege to represent Urban Choices. I want to make sure I put it on my little phone here. I make sure all our members, is that working now? Perfect. Jim McPherson, Dorina Bustamante, without all your hard work, this would not be happening. Tomorrow night would not be happening. Matt Salinger, Greg Esser, Christina Noble, Leslie Lindo, Jenny Poon, Lorenzo Perez, and Feliciano Vera. A special shout out to you for planting the seeds of the ideas for tonight's community conversation and tomorrow night's community conversations. That group of folks is a group that started after a panel a year ago, getting together and saying, we're tired of being on panels and just talking about things. Can we all talk regularly, share success stories, help each other to become more successful in what we're doing so that we can actually do things instead of just talking about things. So tonight is the culmination of a lot of the ideas from Urban Choices. It is my honor also to introduce the Master of Ceremonies this evening, Mr. Tim Igo. Tim is a thought leader in the legal community. I can attest to that. He's the editor of Arizona Attorney Magazine. He's also the leader of Downtown Voices Coalition, and he is a newly appointed member of the newly created Downtown Phoenix, Inc. So this, my friends, is somebody that we need to get to know. Tim, most importantly, is raising two amazing young women with his wife, Kathy. And those folks are especially excited about the things that we're going to talk about tonight, because what we talk about tonight and what these leaders help us implement will really impact the future of those kids. So thank you very much for being here tonight. Tim, take it away.
Welcome. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much, Shannon. And we have a fantastic conversation planned for the evening, and it really is a conversation. As a reminder, if you like what you see tonight and you're interested in the entire city beyond District 4, we have a similar conversation tomorrow night at Levine Machine on Grant Street in Phoenix for District 8. So come on out. Candidates are coming to that as well. I will give a few points about tonight's format, which probably is unnecessarily complex, but we'll do it quickly. First and foremost, this is a conversation. It's not a recitation of stump speeches. So it's about listening, responding, not just pontificating, and I do it myself, so I'm not looking at you. And we look forward to the candidates' enthusiastic participation in that process. So no pressure, but we want enthusiasm. Number one. The evening is going to be audio taped and videotaped. Thank you in advance to our AV experts led by Alonzo Parro of Lamp Left Media, with support of Bo Allen and Tiffany Davis of Orange Theater. Thank you also to local filmmaker Steve Weiss with No Festival Required, who is stepping up once again to help us with this. All the candidates were told in advance about the tight response limits we've imposed, so the more pointed and specific your responses, the better we're going to get to know you. So we're really just helping you out here. The evening is going to be timed, and thank you to our timekeeper, Edward Jensen, who is able to do this somehow remotely, so thumbs up to that. We're going to open with some candidate self-introductions, 2 minutes each. Then we'll move into the question responsive part of the evening. It'll be focused on 5 areas of interest, which I'll discuss later, and candidates will then offer closing remarks of 2.5 minutes each. And finally, we'll take audience questions. Our goal is to get you on your way by, I was going to say 8 o'clock. I'll say 8-ish since we're starting a little late. To compare, though, we have 6 candidates here tonight, and we have 4 candidates in District 8 tomorrow night, and we're aiming for the same time slot. So I guess we're going to move the time-space continuum somehow and do that. But welcome to all the candidates. Jeffrey Brown, who has entered the race, was unable to make it. The commitments for tonight came before he was able to get on his calendar, so he couldn't be here tonight, but thank you to everyone else. Earlier, all the candidates drew a number. The candidate who drew number 1 will begin with opening statement, and we'll go through the order. At the end of the night, we'll reverse the order for closing statements. So, therefore, we begin with opening remarks by David Lujan.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Shannon, and all the community leaders for organizing this event tonight. I think it's a great opportunity for us to introduce ourselves to you. I'm David Lujan. I was born in Phoenix. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and I love our city. And I'm running for city council because I believe that all of the people that live in District 4, whether you live in a historic neighborhood in Central Phoenix or in Maryvale, deserve to have safe neighborhoods with quality public schools, neighborhood parks, and a thriving small business community. And I believe I have the experience and the record to be able to accomplish those things. I represented much of what is District 10 in the state legislature in both the House and in the Senate, and also as a member of the Phoenix Union High School District School Board. And I'm proud of the accomplishments that I was able to achieve during those years. Things like fighting to protect the tax credit that owners of historic homes receive, getting more funding in the state budget for full-day kindergarten and grants for after-school programs, and protecting the rights of our first responders, the police and the firefighters who keep us safe every single day. And more than that, though, I've lived in the same house for 16 years, and it's the people that I've gotten to know during that time, whether it's the people I meet on the light rail as I go to work once in a while, I ride that periodically, usually a couple times a week, or at the barber shop or the dog park where I go every Saturday morning, or the many small businesses that I go to every single day. We all have that same wanting to have a world-class city. And so it's many of the things that we're talking about tonight in terms of a city that's really encourages creativity and innovation and values our historic neighborhoods. Those are the things that I've always loved about living in Central Phoenix, and those are the things that I'm going to advocate very hard as your next city council person if I'm elected. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I don't know if you're going to have to hold all of them, but the next speaker is going to be Justin Johnson. And while he's getting the mic, I will point out that I forgot to thank Lori Seppa of the venue, this beautiful Playhouse in the Park, and Joseph Benesh, Phoenix Center for the Arts. Let's give them some love. Justin.
I also would like to say thank you for the opportunity as well. My name's Justin Johnson. I'm one of the many candidates that are running for the city of Phoenix City Council. My grandparents actually moved down here when they were both teenagers at separate times. They moved here because they saw Phoenix as a city of opportunity. It really is a city of opportunity. I mean, they moved here. My grandmother started off picking cabbage out on the west side, became a waitress over on Indian School and Central Avenue at the Macayos, and later, through hard work, started her own business on 19th Avenue and Camelback. My grandfather actually started off shining shoes on the corner of Central and Jefferson. He later became a day laborer out on the west side doing a lot of the Maryvale homes, and then started his drywall company, which is now one of the largest drywall companies in the state because of his hard work. This was something that they also encouraged their children to be a part of, to understand that opportunity in this city and hard work will take you a lot of places. My father, at the age of 25, pulled a packet for city council and later became mayor of one of the largest cities in the entire country at the age of 30. It's one of the reasons I came home from LA after graduating from college in 2004. This is a place for opportunity, but it's going to take the right vision and the right work ethic to try and help get our city there. It's somebody who's going to work hard for you every single day to make sure, as Shannon said, this is a world-class city. To do that, we need a council member that's going to work hard, but also is going to be accessible. Make sure they have an open door policy, and make sure that we include more people in this process, because that, at the end of the day, is how we make this a world-class city. It's including people in the process, bringing more minds to the table, and figuring out the vision together of how we move this city forward. And I look forward to the rest of the discussion. I appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here, so thank you.
Are you free?
Wonderful, Justin, thank you. The third speaker is, on my count, Austin Head.
Hi, I'm Austin Head. This is my first campaign. I was born in Phoenix. I went to Brophy, and most of my Phoenix career has been in nightlife and event production, through producing Lady Gaga's after parties to cabaret shows and end-of-the-world events, all sorts of things. So those of you who know me normally don't see me in daylight. The reason I'm running for city council is because meeting the 2,500 voters so far by going door to door, they feel the same way that I do in frustration with Phoenix being overshadowed by Arizona's reputation and the wacky things that our state legislature does. And it hurts our local economy, it makes people move away, it makes businesses not locate here, and we need to find a chance we need to make it so that Phoenix stands on its own. For example, Chicago controls Illinois. Illinois does not control Chicago. And we have the opportunity here because we haven't branded ourselves yet. And we have the opportunity to do that. That's why I'm running for city council, and I'll elaborate more in the conversation. I don't want to take up all the time. Thank you.
Excellent. And the next, Scott Fissler.
Hello, my name is Scott Fissler, and I'm running for Phoenix City Council District 4. A little bit about me. I was born in a city called Mount Clemens, Michigan. More famously known for Kid Rock and all of his concerts and stuff. You know what? We're really blessed. We're blessed because we do live in a great city, and I'm sure a lot of us already realize what we got and how important it is to keep it and to make it even better than what it is right now. And that's why it's really important to, like, whatever we do have, try to make it as best as we can, make it the best. So if we're going to have like an industry, whether it's travel or hotels, let's take what we got and make it the best we can possibly make it. I think that we got a lot of basics layout for the city, and we're really blessed. And I think if we emphasize on what we do have, we can really make the city shine in many, many ways. And a lot of you out there have a lot of potential, and creating opportunity would help out a lot. And we got to make it so that anybody who has a dream out there can achieve it, and know they can achieve it, and know they got the support, and know that they got the city that can help them make that come true. And whether it's coming up with new ideas, new kinds of parks, I don't know, maybe even open up a Phoenix Lake over there in that dry that hangout by I think it's by Southern, or just north of Southern, and yeah, just make whatever we got the very best it can be, the very best. Thank you.
Laura.
Do I need to
Yes,
hear
yeah,
me?
your choice. You can pick it up or.
Well, I might drop it. Can you hear me? Yes, no? Yeah, okay. Well, as you can see, I'm the only woman sitting up here, and so what I would like to do is I'd like to thank Phoenix We Want for hosting this forum and for all their innovative ideas of wanting to see come to fruition. I also like to thank the gentleman sitting here with me for taking the risk and running,
But most of all, I would really like to thank you for participating and being engaged in the Phoenix we want. A little history of who I am. I'm Laura Pastor. I come from a strong line of Arizonans. I'm a fifth-generation Arizonan. My family is from a mining town. My grandparents, I was very fortunate to have my 4 grandparents to influence me and instill many things. And the 3 things that were instilled in us were family, faith, and community. And so I look at myself today as living the American dream, and in living and continuing the American dream, their legacy. My grandparents weren't able to go to school. They were minors. My grandmothers, as I call them, businesswomen, they were housekeepers and they were bookkeepers. My parents happened to be fortunate enough to make choices, and they really only had 3 choices. The 3 choices were to become a miner, for my mom to get married, or go get an education. And so they chose to get an education, and an education opened the doors of many choices. I chose to become a teacher, just like my parents. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Isaac and Roosevelt School District. I continued to work at South Mountain Community College on an outreach program with at-risk youth and getting them into college. And in that whole classroom, I was able to see what a budget was, I was able to see what collaboration was, and I was able to inspire and empower young minds. So that's who I am. Thank you.
And our opening statements will be closed by Dan Carroll.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Urban Choices, and thank all of you for being here tonight. I am Dan Carroll. I am very pleased to welcome you as president of the Midtown Museum District Neighborhood Association, in which this wonderful facility sits. So thank you very much for being a part of our neighborhood. And really, neighborhood is what's at the core of my belief and my involvement. And I believe that neighbors know best. And I am so delighted that this event this evening is structured in the manner that it is, a conversation. Because what's most important, really, is that we listen to you, and is that we embrace your ideas and your thoughts, and then proceed to execute upon those. I serve on the Encanto Village Planning Committee as vice chair. One of the most important things that we do all the time is protect and preserve our neighborhoods, in particular our historic neighborhoods, but not exclusively our historic neighborhoods. This district is very diverse. I hope that we'll discuss diversity a great deal this evening. It's so important. And I want to emphasize, we are a world-class city. We don't have to try to become a world-class city. We're there. We do need to educate the world that we're here and let them know about all the wonderful things that I'm sure we'll be discussing in more detail tonight. I love Phoenix. It's been my license plate for a long time, not just when I pulled a packet. It's been my email for a long time. I just adore this city, and I have been involved since I was 16 years old when I'd said, hey, I'd like to. You can do that in Phoenix. I encourage all of you to do that in Phoenix. Get involved in any one of these campaigns, hopefully mine. Most importantly, I'm going to listen to you every step of the way, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Terrific, and kudos to the candidates. Quite a few of you didn't use every second of your time, so I think you're on a good trend right now, so I appreciate that. So now we move into the conversation part of the evening, and it will be comprised of some brief statements from some designated community leaders who are going to come up and pose questions and commentary to the panelists. Each of those people has made, thank you, has made quite a mark in the city as a neighbor, an advocate, a business leader, or a combination of all those things. They're going to offer views in 5 different areas that are important to downtown neighborhoods. the new economy, public spaces, multimodal transportation, preservation, adaptive reuse, and arts and culture. I'm going to introduce those terrific people in a minute, but Shannon Scutari had asked me to open with my own little 5-minute, 4-minute, and don't time me, Eddie, take on tonight's goals, on the city we're in, and what we yearn for in an urban environment. After she said that to me, I started thinking about, and you started the clock, didn't you? I can see that. After she said that, I started to think about my own experience with Downtown Voices Coalition and our almost 10 years of advocacy. And I wondered, why does tonight's strategy, tonight's method of engagement mesh so well with the city and the downtown and the time and history we're in? After all, we could have merely thrown out a few questions, had some commentary, and gone home. But instead, we're going to hear from community leaders on important topics and have the candidates engaged. Well, that's when the organizers, and I was not one of the organizers, that's when their genius struck me. Our city and our city council do not need a debate or a forum. I think they need an intervention. Well, it's true. The past few decades of the city and city leadership, we've had some bright spots, but it's often been characterized by 5 steps forward and 6 steps back. I wrote down a tale of binge and inebriation and recovery. You follow my analogy here? It's an occasionally sorry story of embracing glitzy new friends with questionable judgment, getting drunk on development, and shunning those who speak truth and care for your best interests. And, since I'm telling the story, that's us, the good guys. Well, as leaders yourselves and as a possible city council candidate, you're in luck. Those friends are here tonight. I can't predict what messages the community leaders and the doers are going to offer to you, but I'm happy to kick off the intervention with some statements that we, as advocates, have already made to city leaders in the past and will probably continue to make to you, but hopefully we won't have to. You can take them as a cautionary tale. So here's some of the government as intervention advice we've offered. And this is me stepping into a role. Arenas, again with the arenas, do we really need more huge developments like that in downtown? City Council, we're talking to you, we love you, we like arenas, sometimes even recreationally, you know what I mean? But where's the local business? Where's the granular? What's the story with that? We're worried about your City Council. We've heard some guys offering you pins and needles and towers to put into a heritage park downtown. We're not going to be judgmental. It might work out just fine, but we need to ask you, and you need to ask yourself, what kind of substances are you putting into the city's body? City Council, your cousins, the preservation groups, they tell me they've been stopping by, but you never answer the door. They tell me your patio is littered with approved variance requests and GIPLET financing. What have you become? I'm hearing around town City Council that your friends who want shade and walkability and bicycle infrastructure are having a tough time. They are having a tough time. They're making some inroads. There have been some successes, but are you doing enough? Council folk, your sisters, the neighborhood organizations, they tell me they've called you and left messages, but you don't call them back. What's going on in your life, City Council? I know you think those shiny downtown malls are your friends, but don't you see how they turned their back on South Phoenix? You and South Phoenix go way back. Why would you hang with those friends? Well, scene. So you probably get the point. What we all seek is a livable, connected, sustainable city. We want to hear your take on those expectations, and it really goes beyond belief. We want to hear your belief, but we want to hear your plan of how you're going to implement those beliefs at the all-important staff level. What do we want in a downtown and in a city? We begin by asking, what do we want in a city council? And tonight, frankly, is about hearing your commitment to an urban agenda. So, with that, I'd like to begin with the community members. And thank you for your attention. Our first speaker tonight is Brian Baisley. Brian, are you here? Now, Brian, I can tell you a few things about Brian. Brian, first of all, is a phenomenal guy because he stepped in when the speaker who was going to be here got very ill. So Jenny Poon was going to be here with Cahoots, who is such an advocate and such a supporter. So Brian, I can tell you a few things about Brian. He's a tremendous community advocate. He is the Cahoots community manager. He is funny and occasionally sarcastic, so no pressure, but we're hoping for something good.
Sure. A couple zingers can be had.
Exactly. And Brian is going to focus our attention and the candidates' attention on the new economy. Brian.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate everybody's time tonight as well, stepping in for Jenny. So if people don't know the Cahoots story, Cahoots is run by Jenny Poon. She's a graphic designer by trade. She eats, lives, and breathes downtown Phoenix and understands the importance that Phoenix plays in the rest of the valley. So she actually started her business about 3 or 4 years ago and then decided that Phoenix needed a support structure for entrepreneurs. And so what she's done is she started a co-working space. And the reason to do this is to bring together all the talent that is in Phoenix and that wants to start a new business and bring Phoenix to the limelight. So she's been open for about 2.5 years. And what Cahoots has done is it's brought in scores of different businesses to come in, from web developers to PR companies. We have landscape architects, regular architects, and what this does is it allows a collaboration environment for entrepreneurs to start bouncing ideas off each other, network, and then also bring in other outside talent. So we actually have a lot of national clients that come out of Cahoots. So we've been in business for about 2.5 years. We actually were on 7th Street and over near Roosevelt, 7th Street and Roosevelt, and actually outgrew that space and have moved off the light rail over at 11th and Washington. So we've actually done a big build out for our rehatch. We had the mayor show up. We had about 650 people show up with food trucks. We had multiple different small entrepreneurs selling buttons, local beer vendors, et cetera. So what we do is we try to do community outreach within the East Lake Park neighborhood that we reside in, and then we also harbor and foster this great growth that's within Phoenix. So as we've been doing that, we've actually had a lot of companies that have been successful, and as we provide a support structure for them to get off the ground and start their businesses, like we said, IT, tech, various different fields, we've had this great opportunity to nurture these businesses. And then the question is where do they go from there? So we are helping support these businesses get started, but where is the support structure for them to go? So there's other organizations, private entities, that are helping support. So Seed Spot's a nice nonprofit that's helped incubate things. CEI out of Gateway Community College is also providing a lot of mid-level support structure. But one of the things that we face is what's going on within the city to help foster and kind of create the infrastructure, and why does talent that starts here not stay here? So one of the things that we've noticed is we've had a lot of retention problems. So we have great companies and entrepreneurs that start within Phoenix. And then there's places like Portland, there's places like San Francisco, Austin, that are starting to recruit millennials, which a lot of these entrepreneurs are. So they come out of our great education system, post-secondary education system. What are we doing to support them, right? What's the story that Phoenix can tell? And how do we continue to tell that in a unified way? Like, we have great education, tech education. ASU's got one of the best MBA programs. But within Phoenix, how do we continue to tell that story? So one of the questions that we can pose, and is this an open forum to start asking questions, or just...
Right, well, I think you've asked a big one.
Sure.
So if you, do you want to go with a specific question? Because really it's going to be turned over to them now. They have a minute and a half to come up with all their solutions to the question I wrote down is, what is City Hall doing to help the businesses we want to be here and to come here, to stay here and make the diverse economy we need?
Absolutely. And that's the same thing. So we have the education, we have the entrepreneurs. What can the city do to retain that? Because we've noticed a lot of people, a lot of businesses actually wanting to come from Scottsdale. So that's even within the valley. What's the support structure? What's the incentives that we can offer to steal that talent, even from Scottsdale, but the other global cities as well?
So why don't we do this? On this portion, we'll begin on one end, go to the other, and come on back. So a minute and a half. I'm open. Whoever wants to raise a hand and start. Austin, please do. A minute and a half on the clock.
So I fully support local business. I'm sure that's not a surprise. An exclamation, that's not, don't know if I'm going to pronounce this word right. Forget it. A lot of the percentage of your dollar spent at local business stays in Phoenix. A much higher percentage of your dollar spent at local business stays in Phoenix than if you spend it at a chain. So we want to keep our money in Phoenix, obviously. Another thing when talking to community members such as developers and art gallery owners in the Roosevelt Road District and Norman Fox, for example, who just developed that canvas on the corner of Roosevelt and 3rd, they're having trouble with these large conglomerates getting these variances and pushing up the tax burden for all these local businesses so they can't be sustainable anymore. And I don't understand why you would want to push out a community that initially made downtown interesting in order to put these boring buildings up that then downtown will be boring again. That's my piece. Your turn.
All right.
Well, thank you.
And so Dan is going to start now. Eddie, thank you.
Well, I think that one of the things that's important to me is that we not try to attract from Scottsdale or Tempe or Glendale, but that we try to attract from without. We talk in this evening, or there was some discussion that the conversation would entail regionalism. And while I want to attract the best and the brightest in the central city, midtown, downtown, I don't necessarily want to grab them from another part of the city. That's really not the type of growth that I think we want to look for. We want to enrich livability. You know, there's something that's been bothering me for years, and we can't refight this fight. But you know, if we can find the wherewithal, if we can find the spirit, if we can find the dollars to spend $100 million in urban Phoenix on a parking garage, then we can find the way to spend $100 million on local businesses right here in the heart of our city, and find a way to do that, find the will. I served with some folks at the city level in the early 90s, and I was astonished when I heard a conversation, and this speaks to city staff, that it was by a mayor, and he said, we're a well-managed city, just kick back and enjoy the ride, to one of his colleagues. No, the managers, the staff, needs to do what we as a community want to see done.
As a generation millennial myself, as I think we're one of two candidates up here, I understand the importance of trying to reach out to some of those folks and encourage them not only to take part in this process, but also to encourage their involvement in the small business economy. I myself am a small business owner, actually. I have a small construction company, and I understand the importance of promotion within the city. One of the things that we've actually done on this campaign is our culinary tour. We've been out going literally business to business, Yelping about it, Facebooking about it, Twittering about it, trying to make sure that we're out there getting the word. We actually read an article that says for every Yelp that a restaurant receives, it's like a net benefit of $1,200 a year. That's one of the ways I think the city can actually do better in this process. You know, I met with Rachel, who's the owner of Bunky Boutique, and I sat down with her and I said, what can the city do to make it better for the small local business owners that are trying to develop their business inside the city of Phoenix? And she said, well, you can start by saying thank you. That's a big component. That's a piece that we can actually engage in, write a letter, tell them we will show up, we'll talk about their business, we'll encourage their growth. I also served on the ad hoc committee, which meant to streamline DSD and adaptive reuse, which is another program that came out of that. Government can do a better job at getting out of the way to help the local small business owners. They can help push aside the stuff that create barriers for these folks to do better by encouraging things like adaptive reuse, like Seed Spot, helping promote for their businesses. That's what we can do as a government to make this a better system for the local small business owners.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see if I get this right. That's a good question. How can we support local businesses? Because you know, local businesses is the heart of our economy. Really, it helps give us identity. I'm sure I could spit out a couple names that a lot of you probably know, and although they're not from Phoenix, they should be, like Sweet Republic Ice Cream Shop in Scottsdale, it gives the people a reason to get out of their house and try something new, which is the flavor of life. It's the essence of the very beauty of America, is all these different shops that help us enjoy life, and it gives us those sweet pleasures we wouldn't have otherwise. And it's very important. And there's just so many ideas out there, just an abundance of ideas. And one way that I think that City Council could help is most definitely put the word out to like friends, family, across other cities, across other countries. Invite people, let them know we're an all-inclusive city, and everybody is welcome, and you're welcome to come and stay. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh.
I think if we're really going to encourage the new economy, we have to make communities that are really going to foster innovation and creativity. And what's going to really spur that creativity? It's going to be architecture, historic preservation, parks, open spaces, music, art, the things that we're talking about tonight. Those are the things that are going to attract those workers to stay here, businesses to come here, and that's really, I think, what we need to focus on. But we also need to make sure that we have a variety of spaces available, low-cost spaces for new startups and artists, and a variety of spaces that are available. But also, I really believe in placemaking, and that is what they're doing so well at Roosevelt Row, and that is making the community members a part of the new development that's going in. I'm one of the principals at ASU Preparatory Academy, and some of our students are members of the Roosevelt Row Teen Council, and so every Thursday I get to take them to these meetings, and it's so great to see the Roosevelt Row incorporating the ideas of our students into what they want Roosevelt Row to be like. And that's what I think we need if we're going to create that creative community. One of our students really has a need for a skate park. There's no skate parks in downtown Phoenix. So he's getting an opportunity to express himself and really advocate for that on the Roosevelt Row. So I think that is a real key component of what we're doing. Also, I would say, if we're going to encourage small businesses, we need to stop doing the GIPLET tax, because I think it's time. We are a world-class city. We don't need to give these incentives to these big businesses to locate downtown, because all that's doing is shifting the burden to small businesses and homeowners, which we don't need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And, point of privilege, if I could, Laura, while you gather your thoughts, where do other people stand on GIPLET tax? Yes, no. Any thoughts? Two no's?
I think I said no in my statement.
Did?
Yeah.
Any other position, one way or the other?
Always been
No?
Time to move on.
All right. So no other commentary from the middle of the board. Okay, great. Laura.
Well, thank you again. One of the things that we have to look at is that we can't go from boom to bust. And we have learned from that. What we need to look at is a sustainable growth. And what does that look like? And how do we sustain ourselves through the next 50 years? Innovation, creativity, working with young people, working with the history, the historic and the history of people, and understanding how Phoenix was built. The other thing is we have to diversify our economy. We have to look at diversifying at bioscience, looking at medical fields, looking at the engineering and technology fields. It's about diversifying our economy and bringing those jobs to us, quality jobs. Unlike service jobs, they're quality jobs, which means we have to look at our educational system. When we have a vibrant city and which we do, but we want to continue and sustain it, we have vibrant neighborhoods. We have local business, restaurants in our areas. We have communities building the arts and cultures. These are the things that we want in our city, and these are the things that we need to sustain. What we don't want is another city north. So as a city, we need to continue to provide incentives to our local business and provide programs for innovation. I'm out of time, but I had a story.
Thanks so much.
I had a story about Cahoots and what happened with me at Cahoots.
You're gonna have to tell it in another minute.
Okay.
This will be a test of your governance, because I bet you're gonna fit it in someplace else.
I will.
I bet you will.
I will.
So, thank you very much, Brian.
Appreciate it.
it.
Thank you.
I'd invite our next community advocates up to speak about public spaces and community connectivity. That is Dorina Bustamante and Eva Olivas. They're coming on down. While they're coming, I will tell you a little bit about them. And I'll remind all the community advocates, you have 3 minutes to wow us with a little intro and your question. So just be thinking that way, 3 minutes, and then they get to answer. Dorina heads up Continental Shift, which is a phenomenal name, a community development firm that advocates for arts, parks, historic preservation, and multimodal transportation, with a focus on creating partnerships between the private sector, government agencies, and nonprofits. Dorina is a 5th-generation Arizona native with 15 years of advocacy experience in public-private partnerships, community development, marketing, public relations, event production, and fundraising, and she's a friend. And Eva Olivas, also a friend, is the executive director. And feel free to give it up anytime you like for these people. Eva is the Executive Director, CEO of Phoenix Revitalization Corporation and a native of Phoenix. She is very familiar with the changes and issues that have affected the communities of South Phoenix, Central City South, and Capitol Mall. She works closely with grassroots groups using a multicultural and intergenerational approach for resident-driven community transformation. They're going to talk about public spaces and community connectivity, and I don't know what they're going to say, so wow us. Come on up.
Oh. You're in for it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I work primarily in Central City South, and for those of you who don't know, you know I'm going to throw this in here. So we are south of the railroad tracks to the Rio Salado from I-17 to 16th Street, but I live in District 4. And one of the things that we're doing is we're expanding our leadership development program into the West Valley. So we actually have already done 5 leadership classes. And our goal is to promote community mobilization so that people are actually driving their vision and their future. When we talk about public spaces, what we experience in many of the communities I work in is that accessing public spaces is the most challenging thing for us. So we don't have a steel park, we don't have a cityscape, we don't have a lot of the things that are in other areas. So what we have are local pocket parks, the public parks that have buildings on them that are closed because the city doesn't have the funding to have the doors open. We do have some nonprofits who are opening the doors for us, but we have poor lighting. Some of our streets have no sidewalks. Crime is high in our areas, so we don't have a lot of people who use those spaces. And then the other concern I have is that nobody has mentioned the aging population. You know, if you look at the numbers, the seniors are one of the most aging populations. So if you have a senior walking to a park or to a public space at night, that is very challenging for them. Feeling safe, being able to see where they walk, those kinds of things are hard for the communities that we serve. And the other thing is, we talked about the city being a great city. I wanted to make sure that you understood why you have to go door to door to collect those 2,500 votes or whatever signatures, is that the greatness of the city starts from our front door. So listening to what people need at the grassroots level, I think, is very, very critical. Then that would make it all-inclusive. So you can respond.
Let's hear from Dorina, and then we'll.
Okay. So I'm Dorina Bustamante. I'm principal of Continental Shift. I am an advocate for the arts, parks, historic preservation, and multimodal transportation. Specifically, what is relevant for one of my projects for District 4 is the enhancement of the streetscape and pedestrian experience bicycle boulevard of 3rd Street, connecting the underutilized parks of Steele Indian School Park to Margaret T. Hans Park. I am a cyclist, not as avid as the rest of you, but I'm also a person that likes to walk and to live, work, shop, play, and I'm all about connectivity. Even though I live in Arcadia, I'm a downtown Phoenix business owner, and yes, 5th generation Arizona, and my family's been here since 1800s, my dad will tell you. Antonio Bustamante, you can vouch for that. But the point is for folks like us who come up with a great idea, like, let's save this street, let's make this street great. What will you do to support folks like us who can say we can help fundraise and provide gap funding if you help champion our cause with streets and transportation, with parks and recreation, so that we can have better connectivity, so that folks can feel safe at night to get from the Heard Museum to Hants Park for the McDowell Mountain Music Festival, which will be happening every year, hopefully, at Hants Park. So, and hopefully get there on their bicycle, and also get there through light rail. So my question is how are you all, what is your vision for connectivity from a multimodal transportation standpoint beyond just the light rail? I mean, enhancing the transit-oriented development experience for users.
Great, thank you, Doreen. And there's a lot to chew on there. We're gonna start with Laura and come back, but let me just point out isn't that right?
That's fine.
Okay. The strength of this, I have to praise the specificity of the questions. And so I would encourage the same in the responses, because that's where the real conversation is going to happen. It doesn't happen in generalities. So, why is the access not equitable for all neighbors? I mean, you could chew on that for a minute and a half if you like. And how are you going to, where's our Reach 11? How about that? Where's our Reach 11 for downtown neighborhoods? And how do you help champion connectivity? Laura. Solve the problems of the world.
I'm trying to chew on that.
That's right.
Well, you are correct in that it's not equitable in all communities, and specifically District 7 and 8, but also in District 4. If you go around District 4, you will see beautiful parks of Encano Park, Indian Still, Market T. Hants. But if you go over to the west side, then you go to Maryview, you go to several of the other parks in that area that at night could be very dangerous. The lighting, and the reason why I know this is because my son plays baseball practice in those areas, and the lighting is not there. So we're out there about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So we need to make sure that the budget is equitable for the parks. Not only that, also for the arts. If you notice in the budget, the first thing that is cut are the arts, the after-school programs, the senior centers. All those items are part of the budget that's being cut. What I want to do is I want to preserve and fight for those items. I want to continue to preserve our parks. Our golf courses right now, our open spaces, our golf courses are up for dialogue. I would like to preserve those. Not necessarily if we go to a different plan, what's going to look like if we utilize that space in another manner and saving that space. In particular, I want to look at Encano Park and making sure that is safe and preserved. That's where I am.
Thank you so much.
I believe open spaces are so important. As somebody who visits dog parks every Saturday morning, it's a great place for communities to come together and to get to know your neighbors, and that's what really fosters that world-class city that we want. And so I think in terms of creating more of those public spaces, doing what we can to expand the arts program that we see in Roosevelt Row, and arts meaning adaptive reuse of temporary spaces, and putting up temporary uses of lots like they're doing in the Roosevelt Row, but also protecting the open spaces that are the open parks that we do have. An example of that is the park that is adjacent to Grand Canyon University. Grand Canyon University is great, but they want to basically take over that park on Missouri Avenue. That's a beautiful park. We can't let that happen. We've got to find other places for Grand Canyon University to expand to, because if we're taking away our parks, we're taking away our communities. And I also would say in terms of connectivity, and for one, as a city, I think we need to focus more on funding for bicycling in the city. Phoenix does a miserable job in terms of funding for bicycling. but also making it safe to walk and to get around the city. I live just off of 7th Avenue. There's a lot of new businesses on Central because of light rail. There's also a lot of great businesses on the Melrose 7th Avenue side, but it's so difficult to get to as a pedestrian at the evening hours because of the reversible lanes. I'm in favor of doing away with the reversible lanes because that will help us to be more connected.
Excellent.
Thank you, Justin. How would I go about doing that? Well, I would encourage the neighborhood to, whoever wants to use the park, and it doesn't have to be a paid person who, organizes a function with the kids to play baseball. I mean, parents would love to go ahead and take their kids out, and maybe some neighborhood kids, and play baseball. And you know what? We owe it them to keep the lights on. And as far as senior citizens, they are a valued asset to the community, and we owe them the utmost respect in trying to facilitate whatever that can improve and make their lives a little bit better and more comfortable. And I definitely advocate for that. And if it's what the people in the city want, it shall be done. And how am I going to do it? I'm going to do it. Tell me what you want, let me deliver. That's it.
Justin.
I think these are two questions that have a huge impact inside District 4, not just the entire city as a whole, but also in District 4. I marched in the La Familia Parade, which went down through Maryville, and there were several areas in there that didn't have sidewalks. I discussed with Gloria and Sylvia about, is this something that just happens to take place in this square mile? And she said no, and she walked me around the neighborhood and showed me all the areas without sidewalks. This isn't conducive to senior citizens. It's not conducive to neighborhoods. If we want to get neighbors to invest back into these inner city areas, we need to encourage people that the city's going to invest back in them as well. There are federal funds that are available for things like sidewalks and infrastructure, just for specific to neighborhoods. The other piece is, how do we create a more pedestrian-friendly environment? The first thing I think we need to do is figure out how we can change the structure of how we develop roads. I think David hit a great point. The reversible lanes have been an issue we've been advocating against for a long time, because we need to make sure that we're encouraging people to ride bikes, to take the light rail, and it's not something the city of Phoenix is doing. I have a friend who's also in the crowd today who talks about Chase Field. They push everybody outside of the Chase Stadium after the ball games are over. They push them onto 7th Street and say, go home. That's what the reversible lanes do. They get people to and from downtown. They don't encourage them to stop at the local businesses and to stop and see, what's going on in these areas like the Midtown Phoenix and downtown. We need to encourage a more pedestrian-friendly environment by figuring out how we can change our lanes, how we can change the way we direct traffic, and the way we encourage people to walk and drive and ride bicycles.
Ava, I think you raised some fantastic points. Access is really a challenge, the lack of lighting, sidewalks. I served on the Parks Board when I first became involved at 17 years old. One of the things that we did a really good job of then is changing the threat that existed always from the development community to our mountain preserves. Now, if you want to do anything, you have to go to a vote of the people. And that was important. But we have a lot of limitations. We need to care as much about our neighborhood parks as we do about our mountain preserves and our desert preserves. And I don't want to be able to go to a part of the city, get dropped down in the middle of a park with no landmarks, no street signs, and be able to tell you by the quality or lack thereof of that park what part of the city you're in. That's wrong. You find me the very best park in this city, and every park should be measured by that. And that includes District 4, 7, that includes no parochialism, that's the whole city. I think that's so important. With concern to connectivity, Dorina, I think I'll probably touch on this more later since there's 16 seconds left. But I'm delighted with your 3rd Street promenade, particularly because I live on 3rd Street. But I think really we have much to do, and I wanted to do a shout out real quickly to Phoenix spokespeople. How are we going to get things done? We're going to get things done by organizing, showing up, being heard in the budget process. And my time's up.
And for those who don't know, I assume by the shout out, maybe everyone knows Phoenix spokespeople, great bicycle advocates. So thank you.
Okay, let's see if I can get all this in. The word was exponentially, by the way. Came to me. Okay. So in order for Phoenix to be a more sustainable city in the future, it needs to centralize its core. So going back to the last subject, I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to draw business from Scottsdale in order to centralize its core, because Scottsdale, whether you like it or not, is a competitor of Phoenix, especially when they're so avidly fight against light rail system. Now, let's go back to this topic. I personally do not own a car. I bike and I take the light rail as frequently as possible. Some of you may know about the incident that happened in November where I was attacked on the street one night on Thursday. I believe that if the light rail was running 24 hours, I would have been on that train as opposed to been on the street and encountering those people. I believe the light rail should run more frequently and run 24 hours a day. I'm not saying every 10 minutes at midnight, but at least once every half hour. And luckily, your neighborhood is in study programs with the Metro Light Rail to get a light rail system down to baseline. Unfortunately, the West Valley doesn't have that yet, and I would propose connecting the West Valley that feels neglected from the light rail down Thomas from 59th Avenue to 68th Street in Thomas, and Scottsdale doesn't want the light rail in the first place. While I was in the West Valley, I did see a home that was abandoned, and I asked one of the neighbors who answered their door why this house was abandoned and why it was in shambles. She said it's been abandoned for 5 years. It's been vandalized, and I'm out of time. Anyway, they want to make it a playground, and I'd really like to help them make that a playground and not have them look at that house anymore.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Fantastic. Let me invite the next topic will be multimodal transportation and community connectivity. John Romero and Feliciano Vera are coming down. Let me ask, while they're coming up, for us to give the candidates some help. It's a long road to August. I have no idea how the hell anybody actually runs for office. I couldn't stand it. But I think we owe it to them to tell them. I've been pretty impressed so far on the specificity of the answers we're getting. Are you getting the specifics you want or not? So who's been pleased so far? Shout out. Pretty good? 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 We're on the right track of getting some specific answers? Excellent. You guys are doing good. This is going to be a breeze going to August. So, gentlemen, come on up. Let me tell you something about our next two community activists. I use the term activist. John Romero is a California-born Phoenix resident who has been an avid cyclist for 20 years. He's been a bike advocate for 5 years, and he's the founder-director of Bicycle Seller in Tempe. Any shout out for that? He describes himself as a bicycle commuter, mechanic, I guess you have to be both, enthusiast, and someone passionate about creating a better community. Welcome, John. And Feliciano Vera. Feliciano is a native Arizonan and the managing partner of Urban Soul Development, LLC, a property development firm specializing in new construction, adaptive reuse, and transit-oriented development. He's an entrepreneur in real estate and finance and was responsible for the conceptualization and structure of Chicanos por la Causa, Inc.'s New Markets Tax Credit Program, whose initial capitalization he successfully led. He's a partner in Habitat Metro and Portland Place Partners, and as such, he is most recently responsible for the development of some things you probably know: Portland Place condominiums, Oasis on Grand, and redevelopment of the Lexington Hotel. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
I think I forgot to mention one of the things that I do is I'm also a director of the Bicycle Seller in Tempe. My name is John Romero, and I can ramble, so hopefully we can pull a question out of this. Anyways, I try to bike 50 plus miles a week commuting, whether it be for play or work. I've been all over the valley on my bike. I do own a car, but I'm bike centric. I'm speaking on behalf of not only the Bicycle Seller, Phoenix spokespeople, a newly formed advocacy group, and the Phoenix Bike Lab, which is coming online soon this year. For me, riding the bike all over town has huge health benefits. You know, I spend very little on health care, almost nothing. You know, that can translate to all of us, and especially Phoenix employers who encourage bike to work. It really lowers health costs. You know, as we all know, riding bikes reduces pollution, you know, it gives you clarity of mind, it has so many benefits, and this valley is flat. We could ride a bike anywhere, pretty much. So anyways, you know, it's an inexpensive investment to get more bicycle infrastructure. By comparison to other modes of transportation, we require very little, and it has a tremendous rate of return. If we can get more bike boulevards, you know, grade separated lanes, protected lanes, recent studies have shown that bike boulevards will raise local business revenues by 49% because the increased amount of traffic on those small lanes. Consider this little talk here an invitation to the 59% of potential cyclists out there that are categorized as interested but concerned. It's the largest segment. It's like potential energy, just waiting for the catalyst to turn into kinetic energy. There's the 1%, the strong and the fearless. I think I'm in there. There's the 7%, which is enthused and confident, and they're doing it. They're drinking the Kool-Aid on occasion. And there's 33%, no way, no how. And that's okay, you know, because there's a good groundswell here in Phoenix for this movement of cycling, of living local, of living greener. So I'm confident we're on our way. As far as being a world-class city, we are there. We need to kind of help push it along and having these amenities so people can get around without having to use a car, you know, bicycle being an option. It's going to attract a young, knowledge-based, dynamic residency here. We're going to get, you know, we're going to attract a great deal of people due to their level of livability.
Bring it on home, John.
Okay.
All
right.
They're a trapped audience. You got to give them a question.
Here's a term we need to get familiar with, and that's bike-friendly communities. We have 9 in the state. Phoenix is not one of those. There's Tucson, Scottsdale, and Tempe rank high. They're gold, and silver. So we need to work towards getting there. And that's a ranking by the League of American Cyclists. And there's 233 bicycle-friendly communities across the nation. We got to be in there somewhere soon. So I want Phoenix to feel like it's. I said ramble, remember? But, I want driving to be optional here, not necessary.
All right, excellent. Feliciano, you have 20 seconds. Only kidding. Only kidding.
We'll keep it short, and we're going to get ready to get to the punchline really quickly. Enrique Peñalosa, the former mayor of Bogota, Colombia, said that a city is a means to a way of life. As a child growing up in South Phoenix, from the age of 9, I used the city's public transportation system to access educational opportunities, to access economic opportunities, to access a life beyond the South Phoenix that I grew up in. And as a consequence, I've been able to lead a very flourishing life as an adult. Mayor Peñalosa also said children and the elderly citizens are, by their very nature, indicator species for the health of a city. If we're to believe that, then the questions that are raised by John's statement and by the folks that have preceded us here on the dais really can be tied back to another to this question: will you support investments in transportation infrastructure that treats pedestrians, bicyclists, and the transit dependent with equal, if not greater, importance than automobile owners? And how do you propose that we lever our public investments to transform Phoenix into a thriving, globally competitive city we want through its investments in transportation?
Fantastic. So, because I'm a pain in the neck and I can do this, I'll also throw out that there are some things coming up, like the extension of Transit 2000, opening up of a regional sales tax, which we're going to be called Prop 500. You know, you want to talk about some of these things? I mean, jump on in.
It's my time.
It is. You're on.
Okay, so I'm obviously for bicycling. That's what I do. I live in the Regency House by the Hearn Museum. In my condo, I have bicycles hanging from my ceiling. So they're there. I don't have anywhere else to put them. But the way we do that is by centralizing Phoenix's core, and that's we develop businesses along the light rail. And going back to your point about streetscape, if you want to have stores filled, so across the street there's the Tapestry Apartments, and they have this open space that's been vacant for years, and the reason people don't put shops in there is because they don't have the leg traffic. Is that the right phrase? Street traffic, right. I'm all over the place. Anyway.
It's extenuating.
So if you want streetscape, if you want walkability, you have to centralize the core, and I would propose working with the Phoenix City Chamber of Commerce, not only on our national brand, but promoting people who live out in the suburbs to move inward so that they will use the light rail system, as opposed to living out the suburbs where the trending is down. There was a study that came out yesterday, miles driven in Arizona is down by 5%. People are more dependent on the light rails. Woo! I like when you chime in like that. So we want people to move into the core and not have to drive all over the place. Ding.
Let me speak to the question specifically. With regard to grade-separated paths for bikes and bike-friendly communities, I've been involved, believe it or not, it's hard to believe, for a quarter of a century in listening actively as a member of boards, commissions, and whatnot. And this spring, I learned so much, again, from Phoenix spokespeople at the budget hearings. And my views on this are really informed by them. And of course, I agree and think we should do everything we can to make that happen. Will I support investments? And I don't remember your specific wording, Feliciano, but no, I won't support it. I will insist upon it, and I will lead that charge. And I hope it starts in District 4 and it spreads out from there. That is my goal. Transit 2000, Tim, it's got to be extended. Now, I don't have a view on the countywide initiative at this point. I haven't read about it or don't know enough about it, but I'm listening. We need complete streets. I think that's what we're talking about here to, for bicyclists, pedestrians, transit, and commuters. I only have 12 seconds. Transit equality is crucial. It costs more to buy a day pass, I believe it is, if I understood correctly, on a bus than it does on the light rail. That's wrong. What are we doing to the folks? Why are we creating two different levels of service? It's wrong, and I think that needs to be corrected immediately.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks.
Well, I think the first component is trying to make this a more pedestrian-friendly environment. My wife and I, who was here until my daughter started crying, but we actually lived downtown for 6 months. I could tell you for about 4 of those months, it was wonderful parking our car and walking around downtown. For the other 2, it was really hot. We need to figure out how we can create more shade structures inside the city of Phoenix. We can do this by involving and engaging the arts community. We can do this by involving and engaging the development community, the small business owners, people who are building infrastructure in our city right now. Shade structures, I think, are going to be extremely important for a more pedestrian-friendly environment. The other thing is something as simple as bike racks. I mean, we don't even have places to park bikes. You get people that drive around on their bicycles downtown, and they have nowhere to park. It makes it very difficult to, lock your bike up next to a table or a chair or whatever else you can find closest to you. And the third component, as I mentioned earlier on, we need to include more people in this process. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know this as well as most of the folks in this room. It's engaging folks like you and bringing you to the table and asking you what we can do from an infrastructure standpoint, what we can do from a bike lane standpoint to make sure that this is the best and most pedestrian-friendly city in the entire country. That's what it's going to take. It's not somebody who's going to sit here and pretend that they have all the answers, because I don't. But I know the folks that do, and I'm willing to reach out, I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to work hard for you to do the job that you're looking to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bicycling in the community is a very important and very well used mode of transportation among the citizens. I think it's great to and noble to advance anything that we can do for bicyclists in our great city. But where we're going to put these bicycle paths, I don't know right offhand. I mean, I would never go riding a bicycle on the side of a road because I know how a lot of people drive, and it just seems like it would be very hazardous, and I'd never want to risk it because, I know how great people and I know how well people enjoy the city of Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, I really like how enthusiastic you are about bicycling. And I don't know, maybe one day we could go and have like an IndyCar like track around, downtown Phoenix for bicyclists to ride around in a loop and attract more bicyclists. Anything from the professional bicyclists out there that know more than me about this, probably great to ask, and I want to thank you all for giving me this chance to speak.
David.
Thank you. If I'm elected to the council, I absolutely would make it a priority to make Phoenix a bike-friendly city. And in terms of light rail, I live 3 blocks from a light rail station. I've lived there for 16 years, and so I've seen what it's like before and after. And I'll tell you, when light rail first opened, I didn't ride the light rail that much other than to a Diamondbacks game or a Suns game, but now I really try to make a point of riding it to work a couple of times a week, and I can because it's easier to use. There's so many businesses, there's dry cleaners along the way, there's restaurants, and then there's other types of transportation. There's the Dash to the Capitol, and so that's what we need to do, is to really encourage the multi-means of transportation, because that's going to encourage people to ride. And then also I mentioned the safe streets. Let's do away with the reversible lane so it's safer to drive on some of those major arterials. But also I want to talk about light rail in terms of economic development. I've seen how the economic development has changed dramatically because of the light rail along Central by my house. But we haven't talked a lot about Maryville. And Maryville is somewhere where we really need economic development. And if I had a wish list, I would say I wish we could move the route of the light rail from I-10 to Thomas, because if we could do the economic development that we have on Central Avenue, and I think that could really transform Maryville if we could really have the light rail going through Thomas Road, because that's what light rail is for. It's to bring people and businesses to cities, and that's what Maryville needs so desperately. So I think looking at how we can use things like the light rail to encourage economic development in other parts of the valley is really something we should focus on. Thank you.
So for me, it's connectivity, equity, access. And what does that look like? That is light rail, that is more buses, that are the dial rides, that is the dash. There's a number of transportation modes that we need to have incentives for people to use. Also, as you had mentioned in the healthcare industry, and many of you may be facing this, is they are encouraging us to do a physical so that we can have an incentive. If we are in the right frame or area, then we will get an incentive from our job to be, we will receive a stipend if we're fit. So one of the ways to stay fit is having more bicycle lanes, is having a walkable city, is having walkable shade to be able to live and walk within our area. Great cities that are like that are Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago. Those are some great cities. We can get some best practices from there, which we probably already have. It's just a matter of implementing it and finding the funds. For bike lanes, what I understand is there are HERF funds that we could start right now, bike lanes. I happen to sit on the Transportation Advisory Board for the county, so I see the whole region. We need a regional plan so that when I go to Tempe, I can continue. It's a seamless ride. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Laura. And Laura, don't make me come back and ask about cahoots. I'm waiting for the full. All right. The next up is leading us in discussion of preservation and adaptive reuse, Tiffany Halperin and Anthony Tuminello. They're coming on down, I'm hoping. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Tiffany is an urban designer, landscape architect, and third-generation Arizona native. It's a competition for how many generations, I guess. I think I just got here. So, she's the founder of the organization Women Design Arizona, as well as a founding member and co-host of the Sustainable Communities Lecture Series, which, by the way, is awesome. So, thumbs up for that. She is currently involved with ASU looking at adaptation and mitigation techniques to urban heat extremes in vulnerable Phoenix neighborhoods. Tiffany lives in a historic district in downtown Phoenix, and her firm, Logan Halperin Landscape Architecture, is right on light rail on Central Avenue. Anthony Tuminello is a designer at Works Bureau, a Phoenix-based architecture firm. He was raised in New Jersey and Arizona and returned to Phoenix in 2006 after nearly a decade working at firms in Miami and New York. He received his Master of Architecture from Columbia University, his MBA from University of Arizona, and his BA in Architecture from Lehigh University. Welcome.
So I was told tonight's a little bit about storytelling. My paternal grandfather owned Moneyback Jack's on Washington Street in the days of the street trolley, and he later ran for political office. And my maternal grandfather worked first with the fruit trucks and then later built his own successful business in the automotive industry. My whole life has been filled with stories of downtown, specifically of owners and the different shops. And as an adult, I decided to move downtown, where now I keep track of the businesses and the places, and my Facebook page is full of stories about businesses and the shops and the shop owners. Adaptive reuse is a larger conversation than one individual building or group of buildings, in my opinion. It is about the activation of space within a community. Existing urban forms, whether they are buildings, structures, street layouts, parks, or a bosque of grand trees, also contribute to the story of place and community. One of the most exciting things about adaptive reuse projects is how, as a community, we build the story of our city. For example, this used to be my grandmother's bank, but it's now my wine cafe. Or this is where my grandfather bought his first Chevy, and now where I'm hosting my husband's 40th birthday. Additionally, adaptive reuse projects help us to activate and sometimes change our living environment. My downtown community right here wants a walkable city. And I personally credit our adaptive reuse projects for creating places that we can rally around and use as destinations. We keep hearing from owners of these projects that it was not an easy thing to do. Yet we see so many benefits from the project. We also see many, 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 many buildings lost because of how difficult it is to work an existing structure into a project. And I guess the last layer to add is that our communities evolve over time and the demographics in our community evolve, as well as the cultural influences and the priorities. And these kinds of projects, adaptive reuse, I think are a tool to help us tell our story over time, but make it fit for the here and now. And we've coordinated, so the question will be posed after Anthony speaks.
I love coordination.
For me, the idea of adaptive reuse and preservation, and I'll throw infill in there, is about the idea of the urban fabric. And when we think about what makes a strong urban fabric, it's about a mix of that new and the old. It's about authenticity. It's about history. It's about texture. And when you look around at the things that have been successful here, and you look around at examples from around the country, whether it's Portland or Omaha or Milwaukee or Miami, and you see areas, buildings, neighborhoods that have this mix, that have been reinvigorated, that have utilized the existing fabric in a way to create dynamic and authentic places that are uniquely of where they are. And it's not only good urban design, but it's an economic no-brainer, right? You've taken something that's underutilized, undervalued, and made what is often the most valuable and desirable real estate in the entire city. So we look around Phoenix, we know the demographic trends, people are moving here. There's a lot of positive energy, and we look at the existing fabric that we have here, the existing buildings, the things that are underutilized. While we've had a lot of success stories that we're all very proud of, I think you could make an argument that there's no city in the country that has a better opportunity to capitalize on this sort of activity, this reinvestment in the existing fabric, to utilize what we have to build on our history. And knowing that development, all too often, development interest and development money, all too often flows the path of least resistance. Often adaptive reuse, those types of projects are not on the path of least resistance. They require a little extra push, but we know the outcome is something that we all want. So my question would be, how do you remove the disincentives? How do you remove the roadblocks to making this a part of what we hope is a period of sustained growth in Phoenix in the next few years? How do we make sure that the existing fabric is maintained, that it's put to good use? And Tiffany's question, I think, is sort of a counterpoint to that. How do you incentivize property owners? How do you incentivize people to keep the existing fabric and to use it?
I think we're beginning with Laura. I don't think I have to restate that.
I'm sorry?
I don't think I have to restate the question. I think, you ready?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I'll be ready.
If it helps, I think Cahoots is in a adaptive reuse space.
It is. It is an adaptive reuse space, and they have done a wonderful job. And because of that, where I was going with my story was that because of that space, currently South Mountain Community College is going through a huge change, and we're looking at different spaces. And so I recommended to the president to go to Cahoots and look at the space of Cahoots for a learning lab and see how we could develop that model into our student center, our student lounge, and how we would be able to replicate that for developed study groups. So there's my Cahoots story. The other prime example of adaptive reuse and collaboration with the city is the opera that's right next to us. That's another great space of how collaboration with the city and ways that we use adaptive reuse and preserving a building. I happen to live in a historic neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that I grew up in since 3rd grade and did not leave that neighborhood. I bought a home in there, and that's where I live, and I cherish and value the culture of a historic home. There are challenges to it, and I understand the developers' challenges, but we work through that. One of the roadblocks that we really need to look at and have a great conversation is Prop 207. And what do we do with Prop 207, and how do we change it? So that's another conversation to have. Thank you.
Thank you. David.
One of my favorite things about my time on the school board for the Phoenix Union High School District is my second year on the board, we were able to purchase the Franklin School. It was a school built in 1926 at McDowell and 17th Avenue, a historic property, and basically transform it into the Franklin Police and Fire High School, a unique school that is not only providing our future first responders, but it preserved that space and I think really enhances the quality of that neighborhood. One of the things I was proud of when my time in the legislature is in 2010 when they wanted to do away with the tax credit that owners of historic homes receive to help lead the fight to make sure we defeated that, because historic properties really are our economic future in Phoenix. That is what people want to come to Phoenix for. That's going to build our tourism. It's going to tell the story of our city. My street where I live, where Lux Coffee Bar is today, when I first moved into the house 16 years ago, it was the Community Church of Hope. And we were really sad when the church moved over to 7th Avenue because that building sat vacant for a long time. But then Lux came in, first they were next door, now they moved in, and then Pani Bianco's next door. And it's a great space. I mean, we see hundreds of people coming in every single week. And so I think that's a great example of taking a space and really encouraging economic development out of there. And so that's our future in terms of economic development in Phoenix, is taking those spaces, making them wonderful, creative, fun spaces where people want to come, because that's going to encourage the businesses to locate here as well.
Is this one on? Reuse and reusing historical structures I think is very vital to our rich history in Arizona. Sure, George Washington's boyhood home is still standing today, and it's a great place for people to visit should they have the time, and what would I do to help encourage the reuse of these historical homes? Why, I would go make incentives. I would go out there and try to, give them incentives to, I don't know if they allow grants or what they do, but whatever it is that they need done, I would be glad to help facilitate that. Every home has a purpose, and here in Arizona, homes stay for a very long time, and they don't fall apart too easy around here in Arizona. And I think because of that, we owe it to these homes to stand as long as they possibly can with the dollars that we can put behind them to help support these communities, these vibrant, rich communities, to give us that variety, that notoriety of our history, of our city, of our state. And we owe it to our neighborhoods to do the very best we can for our historical and reuse neighborhoods and any structures that would be deemed reuse. Thank you all very much.
First, Tiffany and Anthony, this is a wonderful question. It's one that I'm particularly very passionate about. If the first thing the city can do, if we want to continue to get people to invest back in their neighborhoods, is for the city to start investing back in their neighborhoods as well. If you go in the Coronado area, there are concrete, streets that literally looks like varicose veins because nobody has taken the time to go through and fix up those areas. I spoke to a lady named Carol who said, how can you expect me to invest in my historic home if you can't invest in our neighborhood? That's the first thing that we can do. We can start investing in neighborhoods. We can bring back the bond program that helps fund a lot of these historic properties. The second thing, which is a wonderful concept, adaptive reuse. I actually sat on the committee, the ad hoc committee, which was myself and my friend Kimber Lanning, and we talked about how can we make it an easier process for the local business owners to do business inside the city without creating these roadblocks like increasing parking standards and adding more bathrooms and those sorts of things. Things that actually make it more difficult for people to want to invest in these areas and fix up these structures. We can do more, though. I think there are more opportunities out there outside of adaptive reuse. It is a wonderful program, but we need to consider the sign packages and other things that the government and the city of Phoenix can do to try and make sure we're encouraging this kind of growth and these kind of structures and people to invest in these types of areas. So thank you again for the question. It's a wonderful question.
Tiffany, I want to say thank you for the Sustainable Community Lecture Series. I think I've been to 2 or 3 of those. Was it part of the series that was at the market recently about Prop 207? Or was it? Yeah, that was very informative. They all are. Thank you so much. I think that's a very valuable series and one that I certainly, as the District 4 councilman, would love to embrace and have taken on the road throughout the district. And would love to help you make that happen. One of the things that happens as we lose buildings that we never thought we would lose is departments of the city aren't talking to one another. They're not communicating, and one doesn't know that a permit's been pulled to tear something down. That can't go on. That's completely unacceptable. And you know what? We only hire one person as the city council. He hires the rest. And if he can't get it right, maybe we can find somebody who can. I loved what you said, Anthony, about the urban fabric. And I really, serving on the Encanto Village Planning Committee, we every month are faced with issues of protecting our neighborhoods. And I think it's so crucial that we continue to do so. I have long said and moved into a 50-year-old place myself a number of years ago that these are the fabric that make up the tapestry of our great city. And one last thing, a friend of ours from the Phoenix Historic Neighborhoods Coalition, Jerry McHugh, talks all the time about us having thousands and thousands of museums. Each and every historic home that the residents take care of is a museum in its own right. Thank you very much.
Okay, how's everybody doing? What time is it? I don't even know. 7:30. Okay, 7:45. Uh-oh. All right, so personally, I have actually been looking at different properties because I want to open a venue in Phoenix that's a performance space that's not as big as Herberger, but not as small as, say, The Rock, if you've ever been there. It holds like 70 people on stage. Anyway, Phoenix needs a performance space that's like 250 people. So I was looking at the former Theater for the Black Theater Troupe, which was the first synagogue in Phoenix, and it just sits there dilapidated. And just to bring that building up to code cost $300,000. Not including the money it costs to buy the land or lease it. That's just a white walls building, $300,000 just to bring it to code. So the biggest issue I have found is funding, trying to find funding. And a meeting that Dan and I went to that Kimber had helped organize about adaptive reuse, she managed to get a room full of developers and a room full of people looking for those properties to redevelop into one area so that they could talk to each other. And that's what we need to work on, is our connectivity in getting these buildings saved so that we're not tearing down our history, which we have a tendency of doing.
The last focus area tonight, although certainly not least, is arts and culture, and we're pleased to be guided by Greg Esser and Katrina Kaler. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Greg is currently the Desert Initiative Director for ASU's Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, a program that seeks to link desert communities regionally and globally through interdisciplinary arts-based research and projects. He's co-editor of Arid, an online journal exploring desert art, design, and ecology, and he has directed 3 of the largest municipal public art programs in the U.S. in the City and County of Denver, the City of Phoenix, and LA County. He's also worked at the national level as public art manager for Americans for the Arts in Washington, D.C. And I have to point out, since we love Roosevelt, he is the founder and former executive director for Roosevelt Row Community Development Corporation. Greg brings it, so welcome. And Katrina, you probably know her as the owner of Urban Affair LLC, a modern media and marketing company, which was developed to promote Phoenix's urban lifestyle. She also serves as publisher of Downtown Phoenix Journal. I love magazines. She's the interim co-president of ArtLink. Any shout out for ArtLink? And she's the board member of Phoenix Community Tool Bank and Phoenix Community Alliance. And she owns the Co-House, a historic property gallery space listed on the National Register. So, welcome.
Saving the best for last.
Excellent.
World-class cities are known for their arts and culture. The Gallup and the Knight Foundation interviewed 43,000 people in 26 communities across the country to determine what attaches people to their communities. Over a 3-year period, that study found 3 primary factors. One is social offerings, things like First Fridays, openness, how welcoming a community is, and 3, aesthetics, the quality of design, beauty, and green space. The arts accomplish all of these goals. At the same time, Laddie Coor recently found that only 12% of Arizonans feel attached to their communities. There's a large gap there to be addressed. One example I want to mention recently, the Feast on the Street was held in downtown Phoenix. It was a half-mile-long dining table, thank you, that brought more than 9,000 people together to celebrate food and art. It was a half-mile-long dining table connecting the downtown ASU campus with Margaret T. Hance Park, and again, emphasizing the idea of transforming space to pedestrian corridors, bringing people together and emphasizing connectivity, walkability, and community. I wanted to also just quickly point out that this theater, in fact, is the result of a very short-lived City of Phoenix art and private development incentive program. So this theater is here as a result of a public City of Phoenix policy. Today, the City of Phoenix invests less than $1 per capita per year in supporting the arts and culture in our community, despite a demonstrably higher economic impact and a higher return on investment than almost any other public expenditure that we make. So with that, I'm going to cue up Katrina.
We collaborated too. So forget all that for a second. It's a conversation, right? So I'm going to talk about me? Okay, no. But briefly, no, 10 years ago, I discovered downtown. And just before I did, I found myself incredibly bored. I was in the Valley since '89. I've been here a while. I've experienced the Valley, Scottsdale, Tempe, Gilbert, blah, 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 etc., okay? Bored out of my mind. I discovered downtown. I had previous experiences with it. I flirted with downtown here and there, but it was Art Detour, actually. It was probably one of Greg's spaces that he owns in Roosevelt Row. But here I was, Art Detour, this amazing experience, and I was one of those people, these first-timers who wanted to buy a piece of art with a credit card. They laughed. They laughed. Because it's a pop-up experience. Sometimes it's a passing experience, and it's more permanent now, 10 years later. But what stayed with me and what stays with a lot of other people is that this is an experience that they want to experience often. It's the spice of life. There's a quality of life element here that you can't escape. And arts and culture, if anything, is the battering ram for improving our quality of life here in the Central City. So, as Greg talks about investment and an ROI more than anything, investment comes in many forms. And so there are a lot of people like me, and maybe there are still people like me, who are making the decision as to whether or not to stay in this community. Arts and culture can help keep them here. I'm not asking that question. We're establishing that as a given. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay. So, we can ask you, will you support I'm going to want to hear a yes. But will you support an increase in public funding for arts and culture? But more importantly, there are a lot of constituencies out there. You're going to bring a lot of people to the table, right? You're going to have a lot of different voices. So, given that, how will you make the case to those who oppose this public investment?
Excellent. Austin, easy squeezy. Hit it.
So you're the one rebranding Phoenix then, right?
No.
No? Oh.
No.
Then I misheard, but...
No, that's the Downtown Phoenix Partnership.
Right. Okay. Well, I still want to talk to you later. As some of you know, I am an artist. I have been an artist since my grade school teacher told me I was up in North Phoenix at Soros Grade School. I've survived as an artist for 10 years and obviously support the arts. One of the reasons I'm running is frustration of the neglecting of the arts and why you have to fight for something that is so important to being a human. We don't have any experience without art. I mean, we're in a theater because of art. And I don't know how else to phrase it, but I think you made the argument as to why an opposition shouldn't oppose art in your question, but how are we supposed to live without it? That's as far as I can go with that topic.
So at the risk of you not hearing the rest of my 90 seconds, I want you to think for a second to yourselves about the great cities of the globe, now and historically. What's common about them? Their arts and culture. Arts and culture are what makes a great city. This is a great city. We have to invest in it, absolutely, yes. You wanted to hear a yes, you hear a yes, absolutely. We're going to hear, sure, I believe with every fiber of my being that neighbors know best. That doesn't mean that neighbors always agree with one another, and that's where it becomes heavy lifting. That's where this position that we humbly seek is a job. It's my job to bring those who don't believe as we believe along with us. If we're professed to lead, it's our responsibility to lead. I believe as you believe. So I think that that's crucial. Greg, I think I met you probably first during a First Friday Art Walk at one of your venues, and have admired your efforts ever since. I'm proud, as you know, to be president of the Midtown Museum District Neighborhood Association. Some of our great facilities include this one, the Arizona Opera, the brand new Arizona Opera Center, the Heard, the Phoenix Art Museum. We have public art along the light rail at Civic Space Park. That's not District 4, but we still admire it. And one that I don't know if you know about, and if you don't, please go take a look. It's functional and it's absolutely beautiful. It's the pedestrian bridge over McDowell at 35th Avenue that keeps children safe going from one side to the other, and it's an unbelievably beautiful piece of art.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll talk more later.
Exactly.
Art is an economic development tool, but more than that, it's a way that I think our city and our state expresses our diversity. It's a way we express our individuality, but also our unity as well. It's very important not only to District 4, but the entire city of Phoenix. Yes, I will absolutely support funding for the arts program. The question is, how? We have actually come up with a solution that we believe is viable for this city. You take a percentage off of all city capital improvement projects that you can apply towards public funding for arts and culture. That's how we begin to streamline this, or to fund this process, so that way we can start to express what we are as a city and make this a better place to live. That's extremely important, not only because it shows our creative side, but it also allows people to reach out and express their individualism in places like graffiti parks and other areas that we can start to incorporate inside the city of Phoenix. So the answer to your question is absolutely, we need to find a funding source. How we do that is we can start doing that by capitalizing on the infrastructure that the city has and utilizing the capital improvement program and taking a chunk off of each one of those projects to try and publicly fund art and creating a stream of funding that's a steady source of money for the for the arts and culture department. So thank you.
Arts and culture is very important to Phoenix. And one of the ways we can support that is we can make sure that we have all of our city services all functioning properly. And we all know that there's a line of events that have to happen first before we can have funding for arts and stuff. And I believe that we need arts, and culture. And but we also need to make sure that our that we have great police service, that we have excellent fire departments, that we have running public services that are very vital to a first-rate city in America. And if any one of those should waver, it would definitely weigh heavily on the arts community. So I think that one of the best ways that the city of Phoenix can help support the arts community is making sure that we can upkeep our services, our public city services, and then also maybe even take donations from the art community and use that money towards helping them facilitate what they want to do with the arts. And I'm open to a lot of suggestions too on top of that. Thank you all very much.
How am I going to get people to buy into the investment in the arts that I'm going to support if I'm the next city council person? Is one of the ways is I'm going to invite them to come see what we're doing at ASU Preparatory Academy. When I arrived at the school 2 years ago, I noticed that we had some pretty amazing partners in or around us at 7th Street and Fillmore where we're located. And so I went out and I sought partnerships with some of those organizations, the Phoenix Symphony, the Arizona Science Center, the Children's Museum of Phoenix, and we have partnerships. We're the only school in Arizona. We have pilot partnerships with each of those organizations, and I already mentioned how our kids participate in the Roosevelt Road and the Teen Council. And with the Phoenix Symphony, it's the Mind Over Music program. And so we actually have performers from the symphony that come to our school a couple times a month, work with our science teachers and teach them how music is interrelated to science. And we have them perform. They do community concerts for our parents and our family members. With the Children's Museum after-school program, our children learn about different concepts that they teach at the museum. And then one day a week, they walk over to the Children's Museum and they get to interact. And so our children are getting engaged in the arts and culture, and they're excited about it. But more so than that, because our mission is to prepare all of our kids to graduate from college so that when they graduate, they're going to be invested in the community. They're going to want to stay here, but they're going to have that love for the arts because they're starting from kindergarten, preschool in many of our students' cases, and really learning about the symphony and the Children's Museum. And that's what we need to do, and that's going to spur economic development because the more of our families that are getting to learn about the arts and culture, they're going to want to invest and really invest in Phoenix.
Who would say no to stimulating minds, stimulating conversations, stimulating the economy? Who would oppose that? That's what the arts does. Arts and culture creates that. In addition to that, it's culture, it's ethnic backgrounds, it's diversity that is happening within the city. I happen to be fortunate enough to have worked in Chicago public schools. I was as in Chicago public schools, Mayor Daley oversees the public school system. I was part of an initiative that built it from the bottom all the way to where it is today, called Museums in Public Schools. And his point was inner city schools need to understand the value of the arts and culture. And what we created, as David was speaking, Beatriz Rendon, who happens to oversee ASU Preparatory, I worked with her closely at Chicago Public School, and what we created was curriculum, We created family time. We created professional development in the educational world so that teachers could take their kids to a field trip and students could see what they were learning and touch and feel, and then have an appreciation of the arts and the theater. I don't know who would oppose that, but in Chicago, they didn't oppose it. And it was one of the #1 initiatives in the city council. And I will be that councilwoman that will support that and will drive that.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to move now into the portion of the evening which is the candidates' closing summary statements. But I have to tell you, I apologize, we have failed to get you out of here by 8 o'clock. So I do apologize, and that's how you know I'll never be on city council, because I can say we have failed. But I'm hoping that you're engaged enough and you found enough value here that you're going to remain for the closing statements, and then maybe ask a question or two. We won't stay real late tonight, but we'd like to hear some questions from you as well. We will go in reverse order from the opening statement, so that means to begin the close is Dan, and Laura, in case you forgot the order, you're up next after Dan.
Oh, I'm after Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
Ladies first. Well, ladies first, then go ahead.
All right.
Oh, they're getting jiggy with it. Okay. I'm going back to the order, though, after
switching
that.
up.
So, okay.
So I'd like to thank you for having this wonderful conversation and for you participating and being engaged, because this is our city. This isn't my city. This is our city. And what do we want to see? We want to see Phoenix first. We want to see a world-class city. And what does that look like? It's connectivity. It's walkable streets. It's shade. It's having bike lanes. It's having different modes of transportation. So I live in a historic neighborhood. As I told you earlier, I have lived there since 3rd grade. I know my neighbors. I know my neighborhoods. I know the area. I know the good of the area, and I also seen the challenges. And I've seen areas that were at a high and now need some revitalization. So I'm there for them. I know the area. I understand the area. I understand fight back programs. I understand the needs of the community. So I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to listen. And any type of questions you have for me, I'm open. But what I'm asking for tonight is for your support and for your vote, and for you to know me and me to get to know you, because I know you. I live in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Tim. Well, thank you so much, everyone. What a remarkable evening. What a remarkable group. I only wish that we'd had an opportunity to hear more from you, but that's ongoing. We will engage you hopefully this evening and beyond. Please feel free to reach out to me by any social media means you wish, or in person, or text, or phone, you name it. I absolutely want to be your councilman. But I already am your neighbor, and I will continue to be your neighbor, and you mine. Neighbors know best. I've learned that over a quarter century of participation in this community, and it is the foundation of everything I believe. Thank you so much to Urban Choices. I see a Phoenix where graduates in every walk of life want to flock here because we are such a wonderful community. Interconnectedness rivals any city around the globe. Complete streets are a way of life. They're not something that we discuss hypothetically. They're something that we live. Preservation of our historic buildings and neighborhoods is every bit as pronounced as preservation of our desert preserves and our mountains. Our city will shine in acclaim throughout the globe. Arts, culture, diversity. Diversity is so important that we embrace. Phoenix is an oasis in the desert of Arizona. If you like the legislature, you don't want to vote for me. Okay? I will tell you, as your councilman, you will have my ear as you have always had my ear. I will have your back. In order to do that, I need your vote, and I thank you so much for being here this evening. I look forward to serving you.
Well, in closing, I would just like to say that I love the city of Phoenix, and I enjoy a lot of the residents, neighbors, friends, family, all throughout the community. And you know, my years of being in the military and you know, earning countless medals and awards and stuff. I know it's like to build communities way far away where there is nothing overnight, tear them down. I know a lot about community. I know what it's like to go ahead and be thrown into an area with a bunch of people that you never even met in your life before from a very diverse part of the United States. And it really opens up your eyes to how similar we are to each other and our unique, valuable differences. And it just makes us, well, at least for me, it makes me realize how incredibly blessed I am to be living in the United States of America. And I've learned a lot from my dad, who's a Vietnam veteran, and I love him so much. He's taught me a lot. I respect him very much. He's told me a lot of stories and a lot of heartbreaking stories that have happened, and it just reminds me once again how very truly blessed I am to live in the USA. And I really like this, what I wouldn't sacrifice for this country. I mean, how great it is to be in a city that welcomes people from all over, with a great response, with warmth, and soul, and you can, if you give somebody a chance, you can meet them off the street and just, go hang out, go to the park, all kinds of things, And that's what I'm about, everybody. I'm about community. I'm about the city of Phoenix, and I believe we're on the path to great things. And I would so love to be a part of that. And I really would like to stress the fact that we really need to go and strive for the very best of whatever we're gonna do in our endeavors. I believe we need to go for state-of-the-art things. If we're gonna make a railroad train, let's make the best state-of-the-art train track and train that there is to offer this day and age, so that way it can bring us into the future and beyond, so when people want to go ride a train, they know where to ride a train. If they want to ride a plane, they know where they can fly a plane. All right? So thank you all very much for your time, and vote Fissler to knock your city government back into shape. All right, thank you.
Austin, you're the next on the train.
Yay! Oh, this is loud now. I'm going to stand up because I've been sitting for 2 hours. Feel free to stand up with me if you want to stretch. Scott, yes. So, this is my first campaign, as I said. I've done everything grassroots. I've not raised a lot of money because I don't like raising money. I was homeless briefly, actually, when I lived in New York. And even when I was homeless, I didn't like asking for money. I called it the highest form of panhandling. So I don't have the staff. It's just me walking around, introducing myself to voters, trying to hear what they have to say, because it's important to me to serve the people that I represent. One thing about the arts, I'm big on numbers. I did much better in SATs and math than I did in English, as you can tell. Every dollar spent on a ticket or a cover charge for the arts generates $7 to $9 in the neighborhood through parking and dining and all of that. So obviously we need to promote more arts. I'm sorry, what? Unless you ride a bike. Thank you. Way to shoot me down. I have your, okay. Now back to bicycling. I am a bicycler. I only got a minute left, lady. All right.
Tip your waitress.
Yeah. Okay. 44,000 people take the light rail every day. It's the 12th busiest train in the country. We obviously need to expand it because it's causing trends for people not to drive anymore. They tend to take the train or they tend to bike. We also need more housing, as pointed out by Will Bruder at another community meeting that I went to, because we need a centralized Phoenix's core. And these are the things I would like to help work on while at City Council, and therefore I do ask for your vote, as the other 5 people here on the dais are as well. So it's up to you. Again, it's your choice. Hopefully you'll do some more research about me, because I don't have the advertising dollars that these guys have. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, good job, man.
The only one that people were so entertained by, it seemed like. She made them all laugh. Made jokes, and you should be a stand-up comedian, I think, sometime. You had me laughing over here.